17,000 islands, one nation, and 1,000 worlds hidden within. Most people hear Indonesia and think of one place. Bali. Beaches, sunsets, rice terraces, and if you stop there, you miss 99% of what makes this country extraordinary. Because Indonesia is not just a country. It is a paradox, a puzzle, a living experiment written across the equator, and what is happening here right now will make you question everything you thought you knew about this world. Let us start with a number, 17,000. That is how many islands make up Indonesia, scattered like stepping stones between Asia and Australia, a chain stretching more than 5,000 kilometers, wider than the continental United States. And yet somehow it all counts as one country. More than 275 million people live here, speaking over 700 languages. Imagine boarding a plane in one corner of the archipelago, and by the time you land, just 1 hour later, you need an entirely different vocabulary just to say hello. In the cities, skyscrapers rise into cloud. Travel a few hundred kilometers inland, and you will find communities who still live exactly as their ancestors did centuries ago. This is a nation of extremes, and the extremes are what make it extraordinary. Indonesia sits directly on the Pacific Ring of Fire, the planet's most geologically violent zone. It holds more than 120 active volcanoes, more than any other country on Earth. These are not just mountains. They are history shapers. In 1815, a single eruption, Mount Tambora on the island of Sumbawa, was so cataclysmic that it triggered what historians call the year without a summer. Crops failed across Europe. Snow fell in June across North America. Global temperatures dropped by nearly 3 degrees Celsius. A volcano in Indonesia reshaped the entire world. And yet, the land it destroyed gave back. Volcanic ash made the soil so fertile that rice terraces glow emerald green across entire valleys. It is a cycle of devastation and rebirth, destruction that nourishes life. That is the paradox of Indonesia. Indonesia has over 95,000 kilometers of coastline, longer than any other nation in the tropics. The ocean is not just scenery here, it is identity. Entire cultures are built around the sea. The ancient Austronesian sailors once launched from these shores, navigating by stars long before GPS existed. They spread their language and traditions all the way to Madagascar, on the far side of Africa. Today, if you meet someone in Madagascar and listen carefully to their language, you will hear echoes of Indonesia. Some lakes here swallow forests whole, tree trunks still rising from the surface decades after the flood. Some beaches glow at night, lit by bioluminescent plankton, and some islands are so small that one strong storm can erase them completely. Indonesia is the world's largest Muslim-majority country, home to more Muslims than the entire Middle East combined, and yet it is officially secular, recognizing 6 major religions side by side. In one neighborhood, you might hear the call to prayer echo through the streets. A few blocks away, church bells, and around the corner, a Hindu ceremony with offerings of flowers floating on water. For centuries, this blending of faiths has been part of ordinary daily life here. Not a tension, a texture. Bali, the face and the hidden heart. Let us start with Bali, because if you're going to understand Indonesia, you have to start with the island that everyone thinks they already know. Bali is more than just Indonesia's most famous island. It is the face of the entire country, and yet, most travelers barely scratch the surface of what makes it extraordinary. The island is small, about 5,700 square kilometers, but within that space it holds some of the most diverse landscapes in all of Southeast Asia. In the south, beaches pulse with energy. But just an hour away, the cliffs of Uluwatu rise 70 meters above the Indian Ocean, crowned by a temple where wild monkeys guard the gates. Below, waves smash into ancient limestone with a sound like distant thunder. This is a place where you feel small. And that feeling, the The feeling of being small before something ancient and enormous is one of the things Indonesia does better than almost anywhere else on Earth. The real heart of Bali lies inland. The rice terraces of Tegalalang and Jatiluwi are not just beautiful. They are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, shaped by a 1,000-year-old irrigation system known as subak. Every curve of green reflects not just agriculture, but spirituality. A system designed around harmony between people, nature, and the gods. And then there is Ubud, Bali's cultural capital. Here, art spills from every street. Traditional dances tell stories older than history books. The sacred monkey forest, more spiritual sanctuary than tourist destination, is a place where nature and myth blend into something you cannot quite name. And then there is Mount Agung. Rising 3,031 meters, it dominates the horizon and the imagination. To the Balinese, it is sacred, the spiritual axis of the island, home to the gods, a mountain that must be respected. One eruption in 1963 destroyed villages, but locals returned to its slopes. They always return. They believe the mountain gives as much as it takes. This is what separates Bali from every other paradise island in the world. It is not just beautiful. It is alive, and it demands that you acknowledge that. Bali's wilder twins. Sail just 30 minutes from Bali, and you will find an island that feels like Bali's wild, untamed shadow. Nusa Penida, only 200 square kilometers. But what it lacks in size, it makes up for in raw drama. The most iconic viewpoint, Keling King, curves into a shape that from above looks like the head of a Tyrannosaurus rex. From the edge, it is playful. Descend the steep and narrow path to the bottom, and you will discover one of the most secluded beaches in the world, framed by waves that crash with a relentless ancient power. At Angel's Billabong, the tide carves a natural infinity pool so clear you can see every ridge of rock beneath your feet. Just around the corner lies Broken Beach, where the sea has punched clean through a cliff, forming a perfect circle of water that forever spins inside its rocky walls, a place that looks like it should not exist. But Nusa Penida is not only about landscapes. Offshore, the deep currents bring something extraordinary. Between July and October, this is one of the few places on Earth where you can dive alongside the ocean sunfish, the mola mola, a creature that looks prehistoric because it is. It can weigh over 1,000 kilograms, and it drifts through the water like something from a dream you are not quite sure you had. Northwest of Lombok lies a trio of tiny jewels, the Gili Islands, Gili Trawangan, Gili Meno, Gili Air. No cars, no motorbikes, just bicycles and horse-drawn carts called sidomos. The pace here is set by the tides, not by algorithms or schedules. Beneath the surface, the Gilis are surrounded by coral reefs teeming with life. Green and hawksbill turtles glide past as if they own the sea. And here, they do. There is something almost radical about a place that refuses to hurry. And the Gilis have built an entire identity around that refusal. Number 5. Mount Rinjani, the volcano within a volcano. At 3726 meters, Mount Rinjani dominates the island of Lombok. It is the second highest volcano in Indonesia, and climbing it is not a hike, it is a pilgrimage of endurance and awe. The ascent cuts through forests, ridges, and volcanic slopes that test every single step. But the reward waiting at the top is one of the most surreal sights in the entire archipelago. Segara Anak, the child of the sea. A vast crater lake, 6 kilometers wide, shimmering an impossible blue. And rising from within the lake, another volcano, Mount Barujari. A volcano growing inside the crater of a larger volcano, the earth building something new from the ruins of what it destroyed. For the Sasak people of Lombok, Rinjani is sacred. Pilgrims climb to leave offerings on the crater rim, believing the mountain is a bridge between the earthly world and the divine. On clear mornings, you can see all the way to Bali on one side and across the lesser Sunda Islands on the other. Number 6. Where dragons still walk the earth. This is no myth. Komodo Island is home to the world's largest living lizard, the Komodo dragon. These creatures can grow over 3 meters long. They can weigh up to 90 kilograms. They are powerful predators, capable of bringing down deer, wild boar, even water buffalo with a single calculated bite. But what makes the dragon truly extraordinary is not its size. It is the look in its eye. Ancient, unhurried, like something that has been on this earth long enough to stop being afraid of anything. Komodo's coastlines are edged with pink beach, one of only a handful of pink sand beaches in the world. The color comes from coral red grains mixed into the white sand. Up close, it looks barely real. From a distance, it looks like a painting someone could not quite finish. Just next to Komodo, tiny Padar Island, only 14 square kilometers, offers one of the most photographed views in all of Indonesia. From its summit ridge, 3 crescent bays spread out below, each holding a different color of sand: white, black, and pink. Few places on Earth pack such contrast into such a small space. The trail to the summit climbs steeply in punishing heat, but with every step, the view expands. By the top, the panorama is overwhelming. Jagged ridges plunging into turquoise seas, uninhabited coves, and the endless chain of islands stretching into the haze. Sometimes it is the smallest places that leave the biggest impressions. On the island of Flores rises one of Indonesia's strangest wonders, Mount Kelimutu. At its summit lie not one, but 3 volcanic lakes, each a different color. One glows turquoise, another dark green, the third deep red, or sometimes black, and the colors change, not slowly, sometimes dramatically between one visit and the next. Scientists attribute it to chemical reactions between volcanic gases and the minerals of each lake. But for the local Leo people, the lakes are the resting places of souls. The young sleep in one, the old in another, those who lived with darkness in the third. Standing on the crater rim at sunrise, watching the colors shift with the light, you find yourself not quite willing to dismiss that explanation. Number 7. Java, the island of fire and faith. Few places on Earth deliver a sunrise like Mount Bromo in East Java. It is not the tallest volcano in Indonesia, but it might be the most dramatic. Before dawn, a sea of clouds swirls in the valley below. Bromo appears, its smoking crater rising from a vast plain of ash known as the Sea of Sand. Behind it, the taller Mount Semeru puffs smoke into the burning sky. The landscape looks like another planet, barren, smoky, alive. And yet, despite the danger, this is a deeply sacred place. The Tengger people hold the Yogyakarta festival each year, trekking up to Bromo's crater to throw offerings of rice, vegetables, and livestock into the volcano itself, as gifts to the gods. This is not theater. This is an ancient covenant between a people and the mountain that made their land and could just as easily take it back. Bromo is not just a view. It is an encounter with fire, faith, and the fragility of life on the ring of fire. And then there is Kawah Ijen, a place that looks like it was designed by a very dramatic god. Blue fire. Jets of electric flame that blaze up to 5 meters high, caused by burning sulfuric gases igniting as they escape from the earth. It is one of the only places on the planet where this phenomenon can be seen with the naked eye. As dawn breaks, the spectacle changes. The crater reveals the largest acidic lake on the planet, nearly 1 kilometer wide, glowing in an impossible turquoise. Waters so acidic they could dissolve metal, and yet glowing, shimmering, beautiful. But Ijen is not only beauty. Miners descend into this crater every single day. They carry baskets of solid sulfur, sometimes weighing more than 70 kilograms, up treacherous paths, breathing acidic air, surrounded by toxic steam. Their work is backbreaking, and it gives the mountain a human story that the geology alone cannot tell. This is the paradox of Indonesia, repeated again and again. In every place of extraordinary beauty, there is also something difficult, something that reminds you this is not a postcard. This is a living world. Number 8. Yogyakarta, where Java's soul lives. Known locally as Jogja, Yogyakarta is where Java's soul beats the loudest. It is not the biggest city, but it is the one where tradition and creativity constantly, beautifully collide. By day, students fill these streets. This is Indonesia's academic hub. By night, those same streets transform. Food stalls serve hot ginger tea while buskers sing under the glow of street lamps. At the heart of the city lies the Kraton, the royal palace, still home to the Sultan and his family. Within its courtyards, traditional dancers rehearse. Gamelan musicians play their hypnotic rhythms, and rituals continue exactly as they have for centuries. This is not a museum. It is living culture. Shrouded in morning mist, Borobudur looks less like a building and more like a mountain carved by human hands. Constructed in the 9th century from over 2 million stone blocks, stacked without mortar, it is a perfect cosmic diagram. 9 levels rising from earth to sky, symbolizing the path from the earthly world to nirvana. Along the way, over 500 Buddha statues sit in meditation, gazing silently across the landscape toward a horizon they have been watching for 1,200 years. Borobudur is not just the world's largest Buddhist monument. It is proof that human beings, given enough time and faith, can build something that transcends both. Just a short drive away, Prambanan, the largest Hindu temple complex in Indonesia. Built in the same century, its central spire soars 47 meters into the sky. Every surface is carved with scenes from the Ramayana. Battles, gods, demons, and heroes written in stone. 2 monuments, 2 faiths, built within decades of each other just kilometers apart. A reminder that this land has always been a crossroads, and on the horizon, always, there is Mount Merapi, the mountain of fire, one of the most active volcanoes in the world. It erupts regularly. It reshapes the land around it. And for centuries, villages have lived in its shadow, drawn by the fertile soil it creates despite the risk it poses. When Merapi erupts, searing clouds of gas and ash race down its slopes. And yet the people return, rebuilding again and again, in the shadow of the thing that destroyed them. Beauty and danger are not opposites in Indonesia. They are inseparable. Number 9. Sumatra, the island of giants. Sumatra, the 6th largest island in the world, and one of the last places on Earth where you can still feel the planet as it once was, before humans decided to tame it. In the highlands of North Sumatra lies Lake Toba, the largest volcanic lake on Earth, stretching 100 kilometers long and 30 kilometers wide. To stand on its shores is to realize you are gazing into the scar of one of the most powerful eruptions in human history. Around 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano here erupted with such force that it reshaped the global climate. Some scientists believe it nearly wiped out early human populations entirely. Today, that ancient crater is filled with shimmering blue water, calm, deceptively peaceful. At its heart rises Samosir Island, larger than Singapore, where Batak villages preserve unique traditions that have survived everything the centuries could throw at them. Lake Toba is both beautiful and humbling, a reminder that paradise often grows from catastrophe. Near the northern rim of Lake Toba, hidden among steep green cliffs, plunges Sipiso Piso. Its name means like a knife, and that is exactly how it appears. A single silver blade of water cutting through the landscape. Dropping 120 meters, the tallest waterfall in Indonesia. From above it looks delicate, almost gentle, but descend into the gorge, and everything changes. The roar grows. The air thickens with spray. Rainbows arch through the mist, and the sound becomes something you feel in your chest more than hear. Covering nearly 8,000 square kilometers, Gunung Leuser National Park is one of the last strongholds of Southeast Asia's great apes. Here, deep in the forests of northern Sumatra, orangutans swing through the canopy. Their name means person of the forest. Watching one build a nest high in the branches, with deliberate, intelligent hands, feels like looking back in time at something you almost recognize. Tigers, elephants, the critically endangered Sumatran rhinoceros. All roam these jungles, making Gunung Leuser one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. The few places left where the old world still breathes. Number 10. Borneo and the Spice Islands. In central Kalimantan, Indonesia's portion of the vast island of Borneo, lies Tanjung Puting National Park, a sanctuary of rivers, swamps, and the orangutans that made this place world famous. The journey here is not by road. It is by boat. Wooden, klotok houseboats carry visitors slowly along winding rivers through forests, alive with bird calls and the splash of proboscis monkeys leaping between branches. At feeding stations deep inside the park, orangutans swing down from the canopy, their long arms stretching across branches with an ease that makes you aware of your own physical limitations. Mothers carry infants clinging tightly to their fur. Dominant males watch the scene with a quiet authority. Tanjung Puting is wild, fragile, and a reminder of what is at stake as the world's rainforests continue to vanish. The Maluku Islands, scattered across the Banda Sea, once the most valuable real estate on Earth. Nutmeg grew only here. Cloves grew only here, and for centuries, traders risked storms and shipwrecks and wars just to reach them. Empires rose and fell over these small islands. The Dutch, the Portuguese, the Spanish, all drawn by the same impossible hunger for flavor. Dutch forts still stand over harbors where wooden ships once loaded spices worth more than gold. The Spice Islands are proof that even the smallest places can reshape the entire world. That history does not always begin in empires. Sometimes it begins in a single tree, on a small island in a sea most people have never heard of. Number 11. Raja Ampat, the crown of the ocean. At the far eastern edge of Indonesia, off the coast of West Papua, lies a place many marine biologists call the most biodiverse marine environment on Earth. Raja Ampat, 4 kings, named for the 4 main islands, Waigeo, Batanta, Salawati, and Mesul. But it is the water between them that holds the true magic. Scientists estimate that Raja Ampat contains over 75% of the world's coral species. Every dive here is like plunging into a living encyclopedia of the ocean, one that took millions of years to write. Schools of barracuda swirl in shimmering towers. Manta rays glide like underwater birds. Pygmy seahorses, smaller than a fingernail, cling to coral fans no bigger than a hand, perfectly camouflaged, invisible until you know exactly where to look. Above the water, the scenery is no less unreal. Karsted limestone cliffs rise from turquoise lagoons. Islands shaped like mushrooms are scattered across an endless blue. The landscape looks like something painted by someone who had never been told what was and was not possible. Remote, pristine, still largely untouched. Raja Ampat feels less like a destination and more like a discovery. South of Sulawesi, the Wakatobi Islands form a marine national park that rivals even Raja Ampat. Here, the reefs stretch endlessly, often just meters from shore. Visibility can reach 50 meters, and beneath the surface, walls of coral host an explosion of life that takes your breath away. But Wakatobi is not only about diving. Life on these islands follows the rhythm of the sea. The Bajau people, often called sea nomads, build houses on stilts directly over the water. They navigate by stars, as their ancestors did for generations. Their bond with the ocean is so total, So ancient, it feels less like a lifestyle and more like a different form of being human. Unlike other destinations, Wakatobi remains quiet, far from mass tourism. It is a place where you can walk an empty beach, hear nothing but waves, and know that beneath the surface, one of the richest ecosystems on Earth is going about its eternal business, entirely unconcerned with yours. Number 12. Jakarta, a city against time. At first glance, Jakarta can feel overwhelming. More than 11 million people in the city proper, over 30 million in the greater metropolitan area, one of the largest urban concentrations on Earth. Traffic jams stretch for hours. Skyscrapers tower over colonial-era buildings, and beneath the chaos, a city of extraordinary layers. In Kota Tua, Dutch colonial architecture surrounds Fathahila Square, a reminder that this city was once Batavia, the crown jewel of the Dutch East India Company, the hub of a spice trade that reshaped the global economy. But Jakarta also faces one of the most extraordinary challenges of any modern city. It is sinking. In some areas, the ground drops more than 25 centimeters every single year. Rising seas and over-extraction of groundwater are combining to swallow entire districts. Whole neighborhoods now sit below sea level, dependent on aging barriers to keep the water out. And so Indonesia is doing something no other nation in the world has ever done at this scale. It is moving its capital city, Nusantara, a brand new capital being built from scratch in the forests of Borneo, a city designed for a future that Jakarta can no longer provide. The logistics are staggering. The ambition is breathtaking, and it says everything about the Indonesian spirit. When the ground beneath you fails, you do not surrender. You build somewhere new. We have crossed islands, climbed volcanoes, descended into craters, dived into the deepest reefs on Earth, walked through ancient forests, and stood before temples built by people who believed that beauty and faith were the same thing. But Indonesia can never be finished. It is too vast, too varied, too alive. Every island here is a story. Every horizon hides another. And maybe that is the true wonder of Indonesia. Not any single place, not any single site, but the sheer, staggering fact that no matter how far you travel, there will always be more waiting. Another beach, another temple, another mystery, in the sea or the mountains, or somewhere in between. Our journey ends here, but Indonesia's story has only just begun.